Hey, I'm Butterfly.
Hey, I'm Firefly.
Have you ever wondered if we aren't being told the truth about everything?
What have we been lied to about? Join us as we have conversations and ask questions about everything. We invite you to keep an open mind and consider the unfathomable.
Let's break the chains that enslave our minds. Come on, let's go down the rabbit hole.
What's up, Butterfly?
Hey, Firefly, what's
How are
up?
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I can't wait to start talking because we kind of have a funny episode today.
I
And
know.
I think what we kind of wanted to talk about was you know how we've kind of touched on the idea that some of the people who are under the spell are kind of like walkers from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, they're like NPCs,
They're like,
non-player characters.
yeah,
They're sort of like clueless, like they don't really know what's going on.
yeah.
Mhm.
But then there's other kind of weird characteristics. Like if you study them, I kind of feel like I'm a scientist sometimes.
I
I'm
do.
just like
Well,
observing
yeah,
behavior.
I feel like during the cootie scandal, I sort of like got my doctorate
Yeah,
and my medical degree
I like
in like
started
6 months.
super like observant and doing research. So, anyways, I think because of that, maybe I've developed a skill set. But like, I'll look at some people where I know clearly this is probably one of the zombies, right?
They're just there's nobody home.
There's no one home.
Yeah,
So then let's kind of observe some of the characteristics
characteristics.
and like what do they actually do? Some specifics. So like we wanted to kind of talk kind of about that, and then like maybe what might be causing that, and could it be like some medications mixed in with media
Oh gosh. Well,
or substances?
we have sort of mentioned that before in some of our other episodes about how a lot of the pharmaceuticals actually control and alter people's brains and the way they think.
Yeah, like it'll make you go unalive yourself in a very specific way.
Yeah, like, the side effect is like suicide by paperclip.
Yeah.
Like very specific
And
side
you're
effect.
like, well, that's weird. That was listed as one of the side effects, and that's exactly how that guy died. That's weird.
It's really weird that they would know exactly that's the way people are going to do it.
And so is it, I guess what we're kind of asking is it beyond the pale that they can give people stuff that makes them behave in very specific ways?
Well, clearly, if they know that somebody's going to unalive themselves by, paperclip, for
Yeah,
example,
like
they know
that was what happened with Chris Cornell, right? It was like the medication had a side effect that said you might unalive yourself by hating yourself. Like really, that's one of the side effects.
it's very specific.
It's like, well, that means that well, see, so clinical trials, first of all, kind of sound like a big hoax. But then how do we know what came out of the clinical trials? Can you trust it? But what they're suggesting from the side effects is that they did clinical trials with this drug, and some of the people, like several of them, went and hung themselves. And so we're thinking it's not a coincidence. There's too many hangings that we actually think this medication kind of causes that in certain people. But still take it because it'll make you happy. But some
It's a happy
people
drug.
will hang themselves.
Just never mind that side effect.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That's not going to happen
You'll be really happy up until that point.
until the point. And that probably won't happen. That wasn't everybody in the test. It was only like a handful of people, but they all specifically did that. So it's weird. So there's like these specific behaviors.
So that kind of like tells us that they can actually, make you behave in a certain way, probably.
Yeah.
Like if they wanted people to hang themselves, they could give them those drugs, and there's a good chance a good amount of people would actually hang themselves.
It's like, remember when we were talking in a previous episode about the 5G towers and
Yeah,
how the 5G towers kind of, what if, now see, I'm a bad person. I think about this.
I know.
What if the 5G towers can like activate people to go make them do specific behaviors? And then all of a sudden you see people just go start behaving in a
In that
way.
specific way.
And maybe what if it's like violence? They just turn on the violence thing and then those people just start going
There's like a
rampaging.
violent switch.
Whoa,
Ooh.
that's crazy.
Do you think that's what's happening with all the Tesla haters right now?
Well, like
They're
the,
like,
the reason I wanted to do this episode is because I was kind of thinking about like um, the dude at the library.
oh yeah, he's
Like
kind of weird.
yeah. So we both know the dude in the library that we're talking about. So um, like I came in and I spoke with him yesterday about reserving a room, right?
Uh-huh.
But then I come in today and he's looking at me like, who are you? And I go, well, I was here yesterday. I had a pretty lengthy conversation with you yesterday, and I'm here for the room that I reserved yesterday with you. And he's really looking at me like,
He has no idea who you are.
yeah, I'm asking him to let me in, and he's going, do you have a reservation? So that was that. And then it happened to me the other day too, where
He must be really forgettable.
it could be that. It could be that. But they're also, I'm starting to think maybe, just maybe, one of the behaviors is like memory of a goldfish. Like, I'm wondering if they did that on purpose.
Like
So,
Finding Dory.
yes, exactly. Like, well, or like Groundhog Day, where
Yeah,
every day
they're
is,
in perpetual Groundhog Day.
yeah, remember, like,
These
just
people are in perpetual Groundhog
all
Day.
that exists is today.
It all just starts over every day.
And so, whatever like drugs they're on, it just wipes out yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Because there was another time that that happened. So I went with my mom to Starbucks, and I drink Monster Energy drinks, which are really bad.
I know, we're going to talk about that.
But uh, it got like a 0 out of 100 on your app.
My app.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that. But anyways, so I don't. Ever since I watched this video about how this one Monster Energy drink had like a bunch of goop in the bottom of the can,
Mhm.
and it was so gross.
Like
I was
the
like,
chemicals just settle to the bottom.
something like that. And the guy was drinking it and he was like, what the hell? And he starts filming and he dumps it out and it was like this goop. So I kind of got traumatized by that. So now I dump my monster into a cup of ice.
So you can make sure that your chemicals are at least mixed up properly.
Properly.
Yeah.
Just so it's not disgusting. Right. So, anyways, so I go into Starbucks with my mom and I bought my mom like a latte or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, I'm going to go to the Vons and I'm going to get something. I'm going to get a monster and I'll meet you back over here. So I go back over there and I go back into the Starbucks. Now, I just transacted with this woman probably maybe 2, 3 minutes tops before.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in there and I go, can I get a cup of ice, please? And she goes, well, I can only give out a cup with ice if there's been a transaction. And I go, I had to stop for a second and like digest it. But I just transacted with you. I just did a transaction. It was like 2 minutes ago. And then she's making eye contact with me. But then I watched, like, I swear, she blinked and then looked and she went, oh, yeah, I can get you a cup of ice. And it was like whatever process in her brain, like, went, oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
But it was like she had almost like no memory. And I was only there a couple of minutes ago.
Well, that's super weird. And that's like, that guy I told you about from the contacts lens place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, what happened with that guy?
well, so
That was weird.
that was super weird. So like I was, trying out contact lenses and we had to keep trying all different versions and different kinds and stuff. And it took like several weeks to get this whole thing right,
Yeah.
So I would wear a pair for like 3 days. And then if they weren't quite right, I'd have to go back and like ask this guy, you know what, I need this adjust. It doesn't look quite right. So
Makes sense.
he'd give me a different pair to try. Now you try this pair for a few days, So I had been going back to this same guy for like many times. I mean, like I had
Several interactions.
and like with not like a long period of time happening in between each interaction, like maybe a few days or a week tops. And it was
Long enough to kind of still like maybe remember you.
Yeah, like I don't think I'm that forgettable.
Especially if she's played several times in that interval, you're probably going to remember them.
Yeah, but every time I went in, like literally every time, and we're talking like this is a small place it's not like a huge place where there's like hundreds of people going in and out all the time. Every time I went in there, he like acted like he had no idea who I was.
Maybe he wasn't acting.
I'm thinking like something was really weird. Like he would literally every time he'd be like, "What's your name?" And at first I thought, okay, well he just doesn't remember names very well. But then I realized he was like actually like didn't seem like he even remembered like seeing me ever before, even though I had been there. Like
Groundhog Day mode.
It's perpetual Groundhog Day.
But why would the cult want people in Groundhog Day mode? Because that what better way to enslave people is just all they know is today.
Yeah.
And maybe what if like Groundhog Day and like Dory from what was it?
Finding Dory.
Finding Dory.
Yeah.
What if that was like the cult kind of like getting you ready for
Well,
Groundhog
and
Day?
it kind of like reminds me of that TV show that we talked about not too long ago too. Remember the one we were talking about, Severance, where the people have no recollection of their outside life.
That's
They go
right.
to work and they have no idea who they are outside of work, and then like
See, could that be going on?
I'm starting to think maybe
And then like so you got 5G, you got media, and then you've got like
pokey pokes.
pokey pokes, which we can't even really fully fathom the pokey pokes. They had
Yeah.
gnarly stuff.
Yeah. And
But
lots of
then
pharmaceuticals.
but then you have people who are like depressed and they go talk to their therapist, and their therapist goes, here's these blue
Here's a
pills.
handful of pills to take.
And then those
And just ignore the side effects,
yeah,
one of which is suicide
you
by
might go
paperclip.
unalive yourself in this very specific way, but you'll be happier. But I'm like, I think we need to kind of address that, because um, I think I think we might be surrounded by a bunch of people who are completely mind controlled.
I think you're right.
And that's kind of gnarly to come to that conclusion because then, I mean, right now, the librarian and the contact lens guy are kind of docile,
Yeah.
but could they be activated?
They could be activated to be too violent.
Like think about that librarian guy. He's like trying to get in right now, trying to beat us up. And we're like,
Yeah. I mean,
that would be
seriously. Well,
crazy.
I'm starting to wonder if,
Like, what if we had to fight our way back to the car because all of a sudden all the zombies around were
I
activated?
know. Well, it's like The Walking Dead. And I'm starting to wonder if, all those people who like got super violent when, remember what is it called? The Summer of Love? And when
2020?
when everybody was like behaving peacefully and protesting peacefully.
The mostly peaceful protests were.
Where
That
brick
was
buildings,
one of the funniest
entire
things.
cities were
It's
burned down.
hard to believe that that was real. And that one guy from CNN, and he's just going, to tell you the truth, Eric, most of these protests have been mostly peaceful. And you look behind the guy,
It's all flames.
literally the building is on fire, and people are like throwing Molotov cocktails in the
I
process.
mean, if that's not gaslighting, I don't know what is. And I actually know people that, who I think are mind controlled, obviously, who argued with me about that and said that they were just expressing themselves.
Yeah.
And now those people are like scratching Teslas and stuff.
Well, they're expressing themselves too.
I know.
But see, I think you're onto something there, though. There's a connection between the Tesla scratchers
Yeah.
and
The
the
building
target
burners.
burners.
Yeah.
Because you ever see that one? I always bring up that one dude who's just like got a hammer and he's just like
Bashing in the Target cash
the
register.
Target self check-in. Like, dude, I use that.
Wow. The self checker,
I
even.
mean, yeah.
That's probably the one he would want to use. Right?
Well, plus, I mean, not a Phi Beta Kappa because most people pay with their cards.
Yeah.
You might find $12 in there, but that $12 you're gonna have to kind of really use a lot of hammering to get to.
Right.
But that was just my thought. But anyways, look at what's the connection. Maybe those people are just being activated by the media.
Totally.
There's keywords or something
There's a trigger word.
because
They're pinched. They got pinched.
yeah, because these behaviors are
Not normal.
like not normal.
Mm-mm.
That's not like almost like Alzheimer's, but not really Alzheimer's because the dude can still function. Your contact lens guy can still function.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's like they are totally being controlled. And it's documented. It's a fact. This is not a conspiracy theory that certain drugs make people behave in certain ways. Like we know this. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that, some of the pharmaceuticals that these people are on or some of the pokey pokes and combined with 5G possibly could
That's
be
what I think is going
activating
on.
them to behave in a certain way.
I think that you've got like all of the Hydra, so the pharma works in conjunction with the media, and the media works in conjunction with the tech.
It's a perfect symphony
So
for mind control.
And that's why, and I think people like us are kind of going, wait a second, because what I think I've kind of narrowed it down, like what makes us like different from a walker. We're not walkers.
Right.
like I remember yesterday,
I do too.
and I remember my interaction with that
I
guy.
remember the people I talked to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I interacted with that guy, and I knew it was that guy. I was like, hey, how you doing?
Hey, do you think some of them, have you ever heard about this condition where people don't recognize faces? Could you imagine?
Yeah, it's not
There's actually a condition like that where people like they can look at somebody and actually they can't recognize their face. I'm not sure what exactly they're seeing. Like maybe they just see like a blank face or they see eyes and a nose, but they can't recognize people.
trip out.
Yeah,
Is that probably after they got vaccinated?
probably. I'm thinking that that condition's like super rare and it wouldn't count for like all the people that are walkers.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, like I've never really heard of that condition. What's going on now is um, we didn't even talk about how they're spraying us from the airplanes too.
Oh,
So
well,
you're
that's,
getting
yeah,
that too,
yeah,
and then you got
that's a big part of it.
5G, and then you've got the social media. So you've got these people. It's like a hydra constantly poisoning you.
Well, and you know what? I think some of the people that are more highly poisoned are more under the mind control.
Yeah,
So, like somebody who's on like big pharma drugs and who's had lots of pokey pokes and who watches a lot of like CNN, they're getting like multiple like just toxins from every category. So, when the 5G like kicks in or the chemtrails are happening, it's probably just a little bit of that and they're like, "Boo, they're over
that's a
the
good
deep end."
point.
Whereas like people like us, we don't have as many of those toxins, so we get a little chemtrail here and there or a little
But
5G.
I got toxins. I like have bad habits. Like I
Well,
smoke weed and I drink monsters and I do stuff with my computer that probably shouldn't do. But what my point is that I think I can engage in some of their behaviors and not have the effect because of maybe like a character trait that I possess that makes me not susceptible. I think some people's character traits make them susceptible.
I think totally some people's character traits make them more susceptible, but I do think that some people have more of the controlled toxins that they want. Like your toxins may not be good, but they're probably not the preferred ones that the cult wants you to
The
have.
mind control ones are more like go talk to your
Those
therapist.
are the ones that, they use to actually control people's behaviors. I'm not sure about the monster drink. They might be controlling your behavior with that too.
They probably
because
are, but
because that's really bad. You
I
need to
think
stop.
maybe, and who knows, maybe I'm looking at my behavior and I'm going, why am I doing that? But then again, I don't know. I'm thinking, you kind of have to be a follower. Like we've talked a lot about how followers kind of become walkers.
They are.
I think that's what's kind of going on.
Yeah.
I think it starts off where they groom you in school. So we talked about the in crowd in school
Hmm.
and how Beverly Hills 90210 was a reflection of what's going on. Beverly Hills 90210 was this is where we're going.
Yeah. So then, that makes me think about the influencers again, too, which we did an episode on. Um, are those people, like a reflection of what people are really like and want to be like, or are they put out there in certain ways to make the other people emulate them and try to be like them?
Yeah.
Like did they create Kim Kardashian, for example, to be like this kind of trashy bimbo because they want more people to be trashy bimbos,
Yes.
right?
I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then take it so like when you and I both kind of talked about how even in high school we were like, I don't really want to be in the in crowd. The in crowd's kind of lame. They're fake and they're obnoxious, and I don't want to be a part of them. And they also seem like they're totally trying too hard to be some media construct. So we kind of, as a character trait that we possess, we said, I don't want to be that. And I think they're the walkers now. The
Right.
in crowd has become the walkers.
Right.
And they got groomed from the time they were kids through certain character traits to now they're susceptible to, now you should go talk to a therapist. And then, okay, you're going to start taking these happy pills. And then, oh, by the way, COVID, so you got to go get your shots.
And they're like, okay.
And then they also, like, even before COVID, have you ever talked to these people who are like, go get flu shots regularly?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got my flu shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
Well, all of that stuff accumulates in the body. I've heard that even they want to give out like tetanus shots to everybody who like you scratch your foot
yeah,
on a rock and they're like
they want to
tetanus
shoot
shot.
you with stuff a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
They just really want you to take lots of shots. So then you got that. But then also, those people are probably watching the mainstream media, mainstream Hollywood,
Mhm.
and all of that is like you and I have talked about ad nauseum. That is very, very heavy mind control.
Totally.
And the in crowd people are totally always with the next show. Like if you go talk to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm watching this show,"
Hmm.
and "Oh, I watched this movie," and this guy, and blah blah blah.
And have you noticed that like all the show like I don't think you can even find a show anymore that doesn't have like several gay people, gay relations and or bi, like everybody's just sleeping with everybody.
Plus,
You
I
know what
feel
I
like
mean?
black people are being like shoved in my face.
There's no just like regular white families anymore in any of the
Everything's
shows.
not organic, and it's kind of like what we were talking about with 90210. The shows are not a reflection of what exists. The shows are what you
To
need
show
to
you what
understand. The social engineering. This is who you need to become.
they're trying to show you what they want to exist.
They want you to become that, right?
Yeah.
So,
And after watching these things for several years, people start accepting these as normal. And
and then kind of looking down on people. Oh my God, that
yeah,
person's not even doing it.
yeah.
But then you got the chemicals, the 5G,
Hmm.
and you got chemtrails just like spraying people. So now those people have become nori. Like they're
Yeah.
just swimming around in the water.
You're like, who are you?
And you're like, but I just talked to you. And it's like, so that's, I think, kind of what's going on. And if that can happen, if they can be put into Groundhog Day, permanent Groundhog Day, then I think it's completely plausible that they could become violent.
Totally.
And I think that might be the game plan. Because have you noticed, like, if you read the tea leaves these days, it's kind of like the cult is making it so it's the left is going to go to war with the right now. You know what I'm saying? Like Trump is the final straw.
Right.
And it's so weird too because you talk to some of these like leftists and they act like, well, everything was great until Trump.
I know. And you're like, what was so great about it?
I know.
Tell me, like,
We had a uniparty for the last 40 years.
yeah,
Everything's been, but I think that's also part of their nori kind of like, no, what?
yeah.
Things existed before Trump? No.
Well, I'm wondering if like they were mind controlled during that whole time anyway to believe that, and you're saying maybe they could they're kind of docile now, some of them, but maybe they could resort to violence. But um I think we definitely see that a lot of them, many of them, maybe aren't violent or violent yet, but they certainly will just do as they're told and like
Yeah,
snitch on their neighbors. They're sort of like the brown coats from like the
for
Nazi era,
sure.
like, and that sort of reminds me of
Errands.
they're the Karens, and that reminds me of this little incident that I had a few days ago. So I think I told you about this new app I got that like I'm kind of excited about. Super cool. It's called Yucca, and you can like literally scan anything, and it will tell you like how bad it is for you.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, like I just scanned your monster drink and it was like 0 out of 100.
I was thinking,
It was rated really bad.
I know. And then my first reaction was because I'm a bad person, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, what if that app is from the cold?
And it's backwards, and
It's
it's
backwards.
actually telling you not to have
This is making me impervious to
yeah,
becoming a walker.
maybe. Well, so
But you haven't had
I
it.
kind of don't think so because
No, it's
so
far fetched.
the last like few years I've been trying to eliminate all kinds of toxic things in my life.
Probably smart.
Yeah, so like I stopped buying a lot of products that had a lot of chemicals in them. you know?
Like soap and shampoo.
Soap, shampoo, detergent. Like I make my own laundry detergent,
No.
and yeah. And so I've been reading a lot of labels and looking for certain ingredients that I know are really bad, but that takes a long time. Like when you're at the store and you're trying to find something, it takes a long time to go through all that stuff. So this app kind of does it for you, and
That's cool.
it's super cool. And so, I'm a girly girl and I like girly girl stuff. So
Yeah.
I like, makeup and things like that. And I know like Sephora is totally the cult. Like it's like I had to like totally ban that store for years,
What
but
was one of the
it,
things that I mean? I assume it's cult because it's everywhere. You're not allowed to have like Joann's went out of business, so you're not allowed to have a business unless you're
yeah,
cold.
yeah.
But what happened at Sephora that made you go,
Oh
"Wow,
my God,
that's kind of cold"?
what was it? They were like really pushing the like whole transy thing, and they
That's cold.
they were all on board with the cootie stuff and everything, and I just totally didn't shop there for several years. But they have a very big assortment of like everything,
Yeah,
So anyway, I went in there a few days ago, and I was looking for some certain makeup products that now that I have this app. So I was like scanning everything.
yeah.
And it's interesting because some of the ones that are advertised as being so called clean, meaning like that they're good for you, were actually rated really bad. And some of the ones that, like a lot of the ones that I scanned that were rated excellent, were not advertised as so called clean.
Well, that's kind of Orwellian, right?
It's sort of weird. And, like they're trying to push some of these things as being healthy and they're not healthy. But anyway, this place will give you like a little small sample of stuff to try so you can go home and try it, which is super cool because you can't really, I don't like to like try this stuff there because it's kind of gross. But if it comes out of the big container,
Yeah.
I'll try. So I was like, I asked one girl, like, can I get a sample of these three things, these colors or whatever? And she did them. And then I'm like shopping, I'm looking around, I scan some more things and I find like a few more things. And another girl comes up and I go, oh, can I get a few samples? And she's like, yeah. So she gives me like the little three things. And then I find this other thing and I'm like, it was like a face cream or something. And there were two of them. And I asked the girl, what's the difference between these two? And she goes, um, I don't know. I think one of them's like maybe like a little bit stronger than the other one, but she was really uncertain. I go, well, can I get a sample of each one? And she goes, oh, sure. She walks off and then she comes back and she goes, the other girl told me you already had three, so you're not allowed to have any more.
My God,
I'm like, I'm like, okay, so like these people are like, I go, so I need to come back another day. She goes, yeah, I guess so.
I
Like I
know.
could come back the next day and it would be okay to get
You know what I
my three more. It's like they're monitoring you.
Well, that's so weird because that kind of brings up a larger phenomena that I noticed too is how there's all of these hoops you have to jump through now.
Uh-huh.
And every place you go, like when I'm trying to reserve the room for the library, the guy's like, well, you can only do two a month. You can only
That's what
do it one. They're
that
always trying to guide you
that
in
made
their
me
behavior.
think of that. Yeah, and I'm like, why like I don't know. If
That
I
doesn't
was
make
working
sense.
at a place like that, I don't think I'd really care. Like I gave somebody like three more drops of some other product. You know what I mean? Like why do they
And
care?
it's just like, so,
What's the
like,
big deal? Yeah, you need to come back tomorrow, then you can have your three drops.
well, like I told you
You
what
know?
happened with my daughter, and someone hijacked her social security number and
Yeah.
like went and filled out a FAFSA, which is financial aid, with her social. So it was a big rigmarole. So I went out to the college that she's going to go to and went and talked to the financial aid yesterday. And they're all, yes, she has to be here. And I was like, what do you mean? I got, here's her stuff. I'm not lying. Here's her, you can identify her. And they're like, no, she has to be here. And then so I took her out of school for the morning today and I brought her out there.
That's
And
crazy.
I know. And then so we're there and the lady's all talking to my dog, do you have any photo ID? And she's like, no, because she doesn't have a license yet.
I mean, like your
In high
daughter's not
school,
even like legal age, so you should
yeah,
be able to do all these things for her without her
kind of,
being there.
and
Yeah.
then so I was all, well, she has her passport. And then she goes, okay. And then she goes, is it expired? And I was like, what? What does that matter? But it seems like it's like there's you know what it is? I think the people who are the walkers, I think we got to call them walkers now.
Yeah, yeah,
The walkers really like telling people what to do.
they do. They do. That was my whole point with my long story there because it was like the people that like wanted to tell everybody to put their mask on during the cooties. You know what I mean?
Do that 31
Like it
flavors.
made them feel important or something. I can tell this person to put a mask on. I can tell this person she's already had her 3 samples. I can,
They
you know what I mean?
love that.
They love it. Like
And they
their
love kind
five
of
minutes of power.
what I also noticed too, which is kind of gross, is they kind of love being the bearer of bad news to you.
Yeah, they do.
That's like
Sorry, but but not really.
like in planes, trains, and automobiles. Remember
Yeah.
when he loses his ticket and then he finally gets up to the gate
Yeah.
and the lady at the ticket counter goes, "You're fucked." I think that's kind of like what they love.
Yeah.
They would love to just tell you, "You're fucked."
Yeah. Like actually that's really what they want to say.
They want to say that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, what they'd love to say is
Like the lady at the coffee shop probably just wanted to tell you that when you wanted your ice.
like if
Can you imagine?
exactly, you know what she probably would have like loved is if she somehow had the authority to just have me like set on fire. She probably would love to do that. She'd be like, "I'm just gonna set you on fire. I don't want to talk to you." You know,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like why all of these? Because I mean, I've been living in this country for a long time. It didn't used to be like that.
Yeah.
There wasn't all of these little policies, and people used to be
Yeah.
cool.
It's a lot of little policies everywhere. Like everything is
I
micromanaged down
hate
to
that.
the tiniest little,
Uh,
you know, and you know what? Oh my gosh.
Tiffany?
Epiphany. So this all kind of goes back to how everything is controlled by like and owned by like 1 or 2 companies.
Yes.
So these big corporations that are all run by BlackRock are controlling everything and they have all these little rules in place and the managers at the top tell the managers below them and they tell the managers below them and then they tell the managers below them and then it gets down to like
Micromanagers.
micromanagers and the little like salespeople and they're like, do not give anybody ice without a transaction. Do not give anybody more than 3 samples. Do
It's
not.
totally like that.
Yeah. And
And
so,
all of the that's how COVID rolled out.
yeah.
COVID rolled out from the top down.
Yeah. Micromanagement.
And it was like these big healthcare systems micromanaged the hospitals. And then everyone
So
just goes, oh, well.
they're like, okay, like all the nurses just didn't even have any
Remember
common
the word that
sense.
they
Were
used?
just like, oh, okay.
Remember the word that they used for it's like, well, how come that guy got put on a ventilator and then killed and then like they just called it a COVID death? And then it's like, well, that was the protocol. Remember?
Yeah.
That was the word.
Hmm.
Protocol.
We don't know why. And we know it causes like kidney failure, but it's the protocol.
It's the protocol. I'm doing what I'm told,
Hmm.
And then that's what the micromanagers kind of always can do is just be like, well, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Those are the rules.
It's kind of like, and then also it's like the system, like, well, can you guys reverse my late fee? It's like, well, no, the system said no. It's like, well, can you do it? You're a human.
Right.
You understand that it wasn't my fault. I understand, but I can't.
I can't override the system.
The system,
The system only allows me to give ice to paying customers.
So annoying. Everything's a big bureaucracy. Like, my dad just died, and we had to go through the process of all the money situation with my mom and everything. And like, dude, I can't believe how
The
many
system.
documents. Like Wells Fargo is just like, here's a small list of documents you're gonna need to bring. And it was like 4 pages of like bullet points. It's like you're gonna need this and this and this, and it's like really, it kind of makes me think of. Did you see that link I sent you a couple days ago? And it was Netanyahu,
Oh, yeah.
our favorite guy.
I know. He's so cool.
He's so cool. He's like Polish and just like.
We're so lucky to have him running our country.
We are all really happy that he's here telling us how to spend our money, But anyways, he was like, he was giving a speech to Israelis in Israel, and he was kind of mad because, like, there's been all these protests, kind of saying, like, there's people on the left that are kind of saying, you guys are kind of like murdering kids and stuff. We kind of want you to stop.
We kind of don't like that.
Yeah, and they're like, "How dare you say that?" You know. And so
It's
he's like,
anti-Semitic.
"Yeah, exactly." You're like, "Well, you're kind of murdering kids." Like, I mean, there's like footage of it, you know. So, anyways, um, he's given a speech and he's kind of touching on that, but then what he starts talking about is he goes, well, a government can do so much more in 2 months than a charitable organization could do in its lifetime. And he kind of talks like Barry Sanders, which is kind of weird. But then he goes, what we're going to do with these people, it's all driven by the left and the Islam. And he goes, they are pushing all of this anti-Semitism. What we're going to do is we're going to make their lives extremely difficult and extremely miserable.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm going, you guys have done that, I think. I think you've accomplished that.
That kind of sounds like Justin Trudeau during the cooties. Remember?
Yes.
He was like, we're just going to make everybody's life a living hell until they do what we tell them.
Hanging out with you does that. That's for sure. You've accomplished that. But I think that's kind of like what's going on here. So a couple of things. Like we're seeing the behavior of the we could call it the Groundhog Day Syndrome. Groundhog Day Syndrome is real.
Yeah,
but then there's also like top-down dystopia on purpose.
Yeah. Micromanagement. And, that's kind of, oh my gosh, that's another way they can get some of these horrific things in place too. Like, think about did you ever hear about how they did the atom bomb? Supposedly, it was so
Oppenheimer?
well, it was so micromanaged that supposedly, like,
people didn't realize they were working on it.
People didn't realize exactly what they were doing, supposedly, which may be true partially, but like it goes back to that one episode.
I can totally see that. Like you're working in a little division in a lab someplace in 1943, and you're told what we want to accomplish is X, Y, and Z. That's our outcome, and we want to see how we can do it. And then you just go accomplish X, Y, and Z. You don't have any idea about why X, Y, and Z fit into some larger picture. And a nuclear bomb's kind of a gnarly thing to like conceptualize unless you've been told about it.
Yeah. So that goes back to the one episode we had where we talked about like who are they and like how do they actually do these things? Because there's some like maniac at the top who actually has the blueprints for the whole situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they have to plan it and know
everything seems real scripted.
Yeah, they have to know like how X, Y, and Z is going to play into the big picture and get the whole thing done, right?
That's right. Oh, you're talking about the nuclear
and or any of it, the cooties, pokey pokes, all of these things. Like there's somebody there's
an end game, and then there's a route that's specific to get to that end game.
Right, and somebody at the top has the plan for it. But like, gosh,
but a lot of the people on the ground don't have any idea what the plan is. You've kind of put that idea forth before, and I think you're right.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's are they aware of it, or like you kind of talked about Alex Jones in that kind of context? Like, does he know the big picture, or is he just told, don't say this? Like, is he really on board with the evil plan? Or is he just a cog in the wheel that's not really fully cognizant of the evil plan? And how many of these micromanagers are like that, right?
So I think that that's part of the big plan is to have like so many micromanagers involved in everything that nobody really knows.
See the Lego movie?
Yeah.
And dude, Lego movie was totally cool. It was hilarious.
Thing is, what did he say?
Everything is awesome.
Yeah,
like that's
part of the team.
Yeah, and if you look at that whole movie, I've watched it like several times, and I'm always like, because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
I love the movie, but I'm also going, dude, this is cult.
This is cult, and this is like real life. Like, there's all these people just spinning their wheels and doing their little tiny part in the big picture, and they don't even know what the big picture is. They might think the big picture is that part of it that they're doing in their office, but there's actually a bigger picture.
There's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where, okay, now you have people their whole lives, starting off with Brandon 90210 all the way to now they're the librarian and they don't remember you from yesterday.
Right.
So but the librarian's micromanaging me. telling me, "Oh no, you can't get in there."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the girl at the coffee shop is micromanaging you by not giving you a cup of ice.
No, I. Oh wait, you were here. Okay, yeah. Okay, but like,
Okay, let me refer to the
yeah.
rules.
So I can tell you, the librarian and the girl at Starbucks, they're not sitting there talking about the big picture.
No,
They have no idea,
no.
but they are still very effective at carrying out the plan at ground level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, totally. The
and the
little picture within
and
the
the
big
plan at ground level, I'm starting to kind of see it. It's let's make life just unbearable.
picture. Let's make it really difficult at
Really,
least.
like, I mean,
Let's
just
make things difficult
you
for
got to go
everybody.
pay your water bill. I'm going to make that a total pain in the ass so that you get in a really bad mood and you just can't stand it. And maybe you'll snap. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what's going on,
Maybe you'll go key a Tesla.
I mean, yeah, because then, just going through, like, just doing simple things. Like I was saying, when I had to go resolve this thing with my daughter, you get really angry and mad. And then when you're angry and mad, sometimes people will turn to their different coping mechanisms. Mine is I'll just go smoke some weed and just kind of chill out. But maybe other people will be like, oh, I need my Soma pill. You know what I'm saying? I had to go through that process. I'm frustrated now. Let me take another Soma pill.
Or then there's those people that supposedly just snap and like go postal. Remember that whole
Going postal was like,
phrase?
that's kind of gone, like, it's like passe now.
Yeah,
But people used to do that,
yeah.
like go into the post office and just go, I'm pissed off at the way everything is, and I'm going to kill everybody right now.
And so now I'm starting to wonder though, like, do you think that actually really happened, or do you think that was staged to get people to think guns
Starting
are
to think
bad?
total stage,
Hmm.
total stage. And it was, first of all, I think they needed white people to do some shootings
Hmm.
because the stats are kind of showing like black people are like killing black people at alarming rates. And they're just like really
We need
using
to
guns a
like
lot.
fix these stats.
Yeah, and that's
Stat.
and then so that was kind of not good for their political correct kind of diversity is a strength kind
It
of
was
thing.
like pre DEI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like, well, that's bad. So let's have a couple of just white dudes that snap, and we'll just tell people that that's what happened, and then like,
Oklahoma City bomber.
yeah, like I think that there's people who are like terrified of white people now,
Hmm.
and because like the
Because
media
there's so
has.
many people that go postal.
Well, yeah, the media has kind of planted the seed, like, be careful of these white people. They're insane. But I think that's all a big media narrative. But I think that the going postal might have totally been fake.
Yeah.
Like, they were doing fake stuff back then. Remember the babies in the incubators for the justification of the Iraq War? Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah. Let's
I
talk
wonder if
about
it's been,
that.
I wonder if it's been Mandela affected. But remember there
Uh,
was so people were, because I was 18 and I remember kind of my dad talking about maybe going in the military, and I was like, I don't want to go in the military because I don't agree with going to fight in Iraq,
yeah.
because that was like what was the first Iraq war called? I can't remember. It was like Operation Shock and Awe or something like that.
God.
Desert Storm.
Oh, right,
It
right.
was Desert Storm because we're a storm.
Storm the desert.
America, fuck yeah. But it was like, I was like, I don't really have anything against Iraq. It seems like we're going picking on a small country.
Hmm.
That's what it seemed like to me. And it kind of, now looking back in retrospect, I was kind of right, you
Hmm.
know? And the way that they justified going to war in Iraq was they were saying, well, he's got weapons of mass destruction.
Right,
He's a
right.
baddie.
Yeah.
But then also, look at these atrocious things he's done. And then they had this lady going, and then they took the babies out of the incubators and they all died, and there was
Oh,
hundreds of them.
yeah. They just laid him on the floor.
Well, it came out in the wash that that was an actress, and that was
Mm.
not in Iraq. She was like making it in New Jersey, or whatever.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was all propaganda to get people on board with going. And because who really benefited from going to Iraq in the early 90s other than like BlackRock and like Israel? Israel was kind of stoked on it because it was like beginning their Greater Israel project.
Well, I'm starting to think that, um, all these wars, it seems an awful lot like the way he writes in 1984, the way George Orwell describes how we're in a constant state of war,
Mm,
and we never really know who is like on the good side or the bad side. It's always this side against that side, and then sometimes it's that side against this side. Do you remember that in that book?
totally. In that book,
But we
it
have to be in
was
a constant state of war.
the state of war is constant fear,
Mhm.
and you need Big Brother as your protector, right? But I think there's also another element to war these days is land grab.
Right.
Land grab is kind of going on. Um,
And land uniting. Like,
yeah,
how we might actually be part of Canada, Greenland, and Mexico.
yeah.
Like we all might be just one big happy family pretty soon.
I mean, why not? All of everything from south of Texas, everybody that from south of Texas lives here, anyways.
Hmm.
I'm surprised there's still people living in those countries down there. They're all here.
Right.
But yeah, that, and then also like, um, Trump will just go, "We're just gonna take Gaza." It's
We're
like,
gonna have what's he call it? Mar-a-Lago Gaza.
yeah,
Mara
Gaza
Gaza-lago.
Lago, Gaza Lago, or whatever. Okay, well, so like, I don't know, like it just seems like we're kind of doing like the colonialists did when like when Columbus discovered the new land, and then there was this big rush over the next 200 years of people just leaving England and I'm going to go check out the new world, and then they would get to the new world and go, "This is mine.
Hmm.
I have this now." And I think that's kind of what's going on now is people are just going, well, there's people living there, but yeah, but that's mine. And
Hmm.
I'm going to get rid of those people. And I think that's what war is for now.
Yeah, the difference though now is there's like a lot of people in these places.
Well, like
So
in Gaza, like
it's not like a
they were
whole
talking
brand
to,
new land where there's like really hardly anybody there.
yeah,
You know.
there was kind of a lot of people living in North
I mean,
America
what we
when we
need
got
to do
here.
now is like colonize Antarctica,
Who knows?
unless that's where all of the deletes are.
Diddy and Epstein,
They got
Martha
voted
Stewart.
off. Is Martha Stewart, did she get voted off too? I thought she came back.
Did she come back? Sometimes
Yeah.
they get
She
recycled.
she got recycled. She's like hanging out with Snoop Dogg a lot. It's kind of weird. They seem
He's
like
probably
an
about.
unlikely pair.
They're probably both about to get unalived, and then that'll be part of their narrative. Like she has to come back for that part of the narrative or something. But what was I saying? Oh, the war thing. They were talking with again. I think that was on that clip I sent with Netanyahu, and he was talking to like the Israelis and trying to justify what he's doing in Gaza, and he's like. These protesters at these schools. First of all, he's talking about in our country. Who cares in our country?
Yeah,
Focus in your country, dude.
right.
But he's like really pissed about what's going on in our country.
Well, because he's part of running our country.
Yeah, and then also like his funding is contingent upon like if we prevailed in like politically saying no more money for
He
you,
doesn't want that.
he's no yeah.
Yeah.
So he's really concerned about what's going on in these protests in our country. So he's talking about it and he's going, don't they understand? These people are killers. They're baby killers. They're rapists. And it's like, that's kind of the way that they justify their wars. They always have like a bad guy that they create, and then they just talk about all these atrocities that he's doing. And then they even kind of stage stuff to make people think, oh my God,
Get
that's
people
real.
all riled up.
Like, I think that October 8th, what was the day that they got a
October 7th.
October 7th? I think that was fake.
It sure looked that way.
It was a lot of weird stuff. Like, okay, so it's like a third world barbarian in a fucking hang glider.
Yeah.
He's cruising in,
Yeah.
and he's got time to just like
And
stop and rape.
isn't that place supposedly under like some sort of iron dome?
That's why I was under the
Like
impression.
it's super, super secure.
And like Mossad is
So,
like one of the premier intelligence agencies in the world.
but those guys came on hang gliders.
Hang gliders cruising in, and then they got time when they cruise in. They like stop and rape.
They
Rape
raped
takes time,
they raped a bunch of people.
which is weird.
I
Like
mean,
you
even if they're really fast about it, I mean, it would like you'd think that
takes time.
they'd get caught at some point.
Yeah.
You know.
And apparently the girls were just like, oh, okay. But it was like this very strange scenario. And then they raped, and then they got back with a bunch of hostages on hang gliders. And I don't know, just a lot of stuff doesn't make sense. But what kind of does make sense is orchestrating that in order to justify what they're doing now.
Hmm.
That kind of does make sense,
Hmm.
you know? So I don't know. I guess that's kind of a tangent that I'm going off on, but I think what we're kind of talking about is control, like mind control.
Hmm.
And
It's amazing how people will see something like that and not be able to break it down and like question it.
yeah,
It's like it's so easy to gaslight a big part of the population because they are under mind control, you know.
that's when I kind of started not trusting RFK because I was like, I heard him saying something like that, and he was like, Israel has the right to defend itself.
Well,
When people start saying that kind of stuff, I kind of go, culty of you.
it's interesting that you brought him up because I was thinking that we might need to do a whole episode on him because
I think so.
I don't trust him. And I know a lot of people think he's really cool, but ever since he and his what he's married to a Hollywood actress. So
That's culty.
that's culty. And she sent out Christmas invitations a couple years ago, a Christmas party invitations, and it had cooties vax requirements on it.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, either this guy is a total phony or he can't even manage what's happening in his own household. How's he going to manage like the health of the entire
He's
country?
controlled opposition.
Yeah. I mean, if his wife is so out of control that she's going to put that out there, going so against what her husband, who speaks internationally about anti vax, and she's going to put that on the invitations, either he's got a really bad relationship and this woman just like wants to run him under the bus, or he's a phony, or he
Or
can't.
maybe he's saying something like this, which kind of doesn't make sense. He's saying, vaccines are really bad, except for the COVID one. You should get that. But vaccines normally are really bad. It's like,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute. I think the COVID one might be the worst
I
of them.
mean, I saw that, and then like somebody, it was all over like social media, and people were like, "What the heck is that all about?" And he's like, "Well, you see who wears the pants in my family," and I'm thinking, if
That's a cover.
if yeah, if that's your comment, like that's not going to do it. That's not going to cut it, pal. Like there's something up with this guy, and so from
Why
that.
would Trump pick him?
Right. So from that moment on, I was like, I don't trust him. He's not really anti vax the way he says he is. Well, now, lo and behold, he's telling people you should follow the CDC schedule for hokey pokes.
All 82? It's
Doesn't
on
that
your.
just go against everything he was talking about the last few years?
Yeah, it seems like, well, a long, long time ago, because I remember you used to really like Del Bigtree.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to Del a long time ago, like
Yeah.
probably 5 years ago. And he had a clip of RFK Jr. from like 10 years before that. So we're talking about 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he was basically saying that the CDC is just a vaccine peddler.
They are.
So I guess maybe they've come around. So it's kind of like the Tesla. The Tesla was good, but now it's bad. Now the CDC was bad, but now it's good.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
it's and the Dory and the Groundhog Day effect. They're just like, oh, okay.
So I think he was trying to get all of a certain portion of the population, like the Trump people and all of those people who were like anti the cooties stuff, on board with him, thinking that he was like on their side and he was really cool and stuff. So now they are all like on his side. And now it's coming out that like he never really was on that side. He was just.
I think Trump plays that same game.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they do is, obviously the cult knows what they're doing to us.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably know how we kind of feel.
Yeah.
So they have a guy go out there and kind of say, are you pissed about this? He's like, yes, I am. He's speaking my language. And he goes, come with me.
Right.
And then but he's actually the one torturing you until you say 2 + 2 = 5.
He's the controlled opposition.
I think that might be what's going on, but we can unpack that further. But this was a cool episode. It was a cool little because it's always fun to kind of observe walkers
Yeah.
and like kind of go, wait a minute. But now I'm starting to see why. Why Groundhog Day? Why would that be good? Well, then you're not going to ask questions about going to war, taking
Wow.
shots.
You'll just get up in the morning, put your clothes on, and go to your job.
You go to your job. And
Go
then you
home.
probably go home and you don't even remember going to your job.
Yeah.
It's like severance.
It's exactly like that.
That was awesome.
That was great.
All right, so let's. Do we have any ideas for our next rabbit hole? We used to do that every time. Do
I
we?
know. Well, there's going to be another rabbit hole. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Good talking to you.
Bye.